Commissioner O'Reilly, I wanted to begin with you. The use of wireless broadband internet-connected devices has provided all sorts of economic growth and innovation that was previously, quite frankly, unimaginable. And wireless traffic, as we all know, is projected to grow exponentially in the years ahead. And because of this, as you may be aware, I introduced legislation to free up additional spectrum for commercial use, both licensed and unlicensed. And I strongly believe that we should be enacting policies that ensure that the United States continues to lead the world in wireless innovation and technology. And unfortunately, it's my personal opinion, and I think those of others, that the FCC net neutrality order is quite frankly the opposite of what we should be doing. I would be interested to hear your talk a little bit about the impact the order is going to have on wireless and wireless consumers who are interested in this topic and may not understand its true impacts on them.
Absolutely. Thank you for your leadership on wireless issues. I would say that I think the Commission has is flipped and it's backwards on how it approaches wireless issues. For purposes of judging whether wireless should be treated, as actually offering broadband services, we say no. But for purposes of applying Title II, we say yes. I think it's completely backwards. Title II application to wireless services, I think one is in violation of the statute. I think that is one we're most exposed to in a court proceeding, and I think that the statute is fairly clear on that. People have pointed out that 332C gets to the question of wireless voice, but wireless data has never been treated as a common carrier service and shouldn't be, in my opinion. It's something that we should celebrate rather than trying to regulate. So I think it's something that you've been a leader on, and I think it's something we should move forward. And I just think the Commission has it completely backwards and what we're trying to do here.
Well, and as you know, I've introduced the Wi-Fi Innovation Act with Senator Booker, and I did so because of the growth and potential of Wi-Fi and the need for more unlicensed spectrum from Wi-Fi applications. So I'm pleased the Commission has made additional unlicensed spectrum available in the lower 5 band, but I'm also hopeful we can make progress in the upper band. And that's where our bill is focused. So my question is, what is the process and timing for bringing that additional bands into use? And I'm concerned that these bands have become mired in all sorts of technical arguments and stall tactics. So what's your plan to break that logjam, and can the FCC use its leadership to push the process ahead?
Well, thank you for your leadership on your legislation. I don't mean to comment since Senator Peters is no longer here, but I can't make the commitment that he asked for, which was that we not move forward on 5 gigahertz. I think it's something we can move forward. I've worked with my colleagues on this issue. I think that's something we can do in a short order while still protecting the DSRC. So we can do both in this band. It's something that's necessary, and I think the Chairman, I articulated this just a couple moments ago, that they aren't too far apart, and it's something we can do. It has been bogged down in some very technical reasons for some interests who aren't interested in sharing their band, and I think that's problematic.
And Commissioner Pye, I wanted to ask you, the Internet's, as you know, become an incredible incubator for jobs, growth, freedom, under the stewardship of this country, of the United States. In a speech last year at the Free State Foundation Policy Seminar, you said, and I wanted to quote accurately, "Public utility regulation would embolden those foreign governments around the world that want to impose greater international regulation upon the Internet." End quote. So like you, not only am I concerned about the negative impact on investment and innovation here at home by subjecting broadband to these Title II regulations, but I'm also very concerned about the message this sends to other governments around the globe who do seek, quite frankly, blatant greater control over Internet governance. We see that in China and Russia and other parts of the world. What are the, in your opinion, what are the international implications, potential international implications of the FCC applying Title II to the Internet?
Senator, thank you for the question. I think the international implications are worrying, and that concern was best expressed by the State Department's own ambassador in 2009 when he said that this net neutrality proceeding will be viewed by foreign countries as an excuse to regulate content and infrastructure in a way that might not be consistent with our own policies. And I think while the technical issues might be, of course, dissimilar, nonetheless, the overall message that is sent by adopting Title II regulation to solve a problem that simply doesn't exist is that the FCC, or writ large the U.S. government, wants to micromanage how the Internet works. And I think it becomes difficult for us to maintain on the international stage, as Ambassador Rubio pointed out 6 years ago, that on one hand we want a free and open Internet, when these same repressive foreign regimes can say, well, look, you yourself said that the Internet is broken, that competition is insufficient, and that the FCC now is going to stand as the gatekeeper.
We're sending a mixed message. On the one hand, we're arguing that government has no role to play, and on the other hand, our own government has said there's a problem we need to solve, and therefore it's injected itself.
Senator?
I agree.
With due respect, I disagree. and I have met with foreign regulators on this topic. And my message to them is, this is no more regulating the internet than the First Amendment regulates free speech. This is saying that their internet is open, that everybody has the right to express themselves. I met 2 weeks ago with all of the European regulators, and they understand this is what it is. I met last week with the head of the International Telecommunications Union, which is the kind of the international body that comes up with this. This is not, you need to understand, this is not the regulation of the internet. This is making sure that the internet is open. The regulation of the internet is the regulation of numbers, names, routers, this kind of activity, and tariffing and rates. That is not what this country stands for, I said. When Putin tries to shut down Pussy Riot on Facebook, when China tries to shut down access to Google, when Turkey tries to shut down access to Twitter, those are absolute violations of what we're talking about here, because no party, whether government or private sector, should act as a gatekeeper to who gets on the internet.
But
that's what this rule does.
As you just said at the outset of your statement, you're saying this is no more regulation than the First Amendment. The problem is Putin doesn't have a First Amendment, and neither does China. No, but and when you reference, I understand you're meeting and talking to Europeans, but the ones we're really concerned about is China and Russia and others who already control the internet because they're not constrained by a First Amendment, and in fact don't even understand the concept, in particular in China, of this notion of free speech. And so when you make the argument to them that, for example, as you've made now, that we're not regulating content, this is, for them, it's literally a foreign concept. They don't have a First Amendment, nor do they have any sort of societal and or governmental commitment to the notion of free speech. What they see is a governmental agency of the United States involved in setting terms for how the internet can be provided. Maybe it's, even if it's content neutral, and I think it gives them an excuse to say, if your government can do it, our government can do it too. I'm sorry, I wanted to... With
respect, I don't think that it sets the rules, and the other thing is, when I met with Secretary General Sal, who is Chinese, okay, and said, you need to understand that's what this is. And in your home country, when you are blocking, that would be a violation of our open internet rules, because that's what this is about. Not the operation of the network, but making sure that the network...
And I'm confident he probably informed you that in his country they set rules, in your country you can set your own rules, but in their, I mean, he'll remind you of their sovereignty and the notion that their view of what's free speech and what should be allowed is very different.
The position of our country hasn't changed.
Senator, if I could just add one critical point, even at a level less profound than matters of free speech, it nonetheless is the case that what we have done is sends the message. Let me give you one quick example. Under our Internet Conduct Standard, the FCC explicitly tees up practices such as sponsored data as potentially being net neutrality violations. If we were to find that a sponsored data practice, which essentially gives consumers something for free, would violate net neutrality, now we see foreign countries engaging that same practice. The same people who pushed us to adopt this net neutrality order have called sponsored data a human rights violation. Now we see foreign countries starting to do the same thing, banning sponsored data and other pro-consumer type innovations that allow some of the smaller competitors to distinguish themselves. So we can't act as if what the FCC does is within a vacuum when it's bad, but the message that it sends when it's good is somehow going to be transmitted through the globe. You can't have it both ways.